Hello and welcome everybody to another session with Radhika Shah-Groovan. Really happy to have you here today, Radhika
Thank
ji. You have proven to be really an expert in the field of yoga. You have written 2 books, Yoga Sutras Illuminated and Mastering Pranayama, with very deep insights. And some of these insights we're going to look into a little bit more detail today. And so in this session, we would like to talk to you about desire fulfillment.
That's quite an important topic, especially these days. I see a lot of my students are also thinking about this topic right now. So, yes, let's go ahead. I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Right, so let's go right into the first question. What makes you actually an expert on desire
Okay,
fulfillment?
when I said let's go directly into it, I was not expecting that. But yeah, very important question. What makes me the expert? Well, these days it seems that almost everybody has become an expert on desire fulfillment. But I can say that I have a lineage, the backing of a lineage, and this is the Samaya Shri Vidya lineage. Shri Vidya, as some people know, especially in South India, people know this to be that aspect of Indian tradition, spiritual tradition that is most closely connected to desire fulfillment. If you go to South India, there are a lot of ritualistic traditions there, and they all are about Sri Vidya, how to fulfill desires. And over there, people have rituals about how do I get a good partner, get a job, or get a house or a car. And there is a whole tradition, Vedic tradition about fulfilling desires and using mantras, shlokas, etc. for that purpose. Our tradition, which is in the lineage of Swami Rama, is also about Sri Vidya, but it is the most inner worship of Sri Vidya, which is called Samaya Sri Vidya. And this is what makes me an expert on it, the lineage. And of course, the years of practice that I have in this tradition, which is almost something like 35 years with over 30,000 hours. I mean, that 30,000 hours of meditation is actually a conservative estimate. And I do not really want to go further into that because there are certain aspects of Sri Vidya which are not discussed in public. They are sacred, they are secret, they are rahasya, it is called, which is secret. And so one says in our tradition, nadatavyam, 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 which means don't impart, don't impart, don't impart.
Thanks for giving us this background on where you have gained all this knowledge from and what makes you an expert. So let's move on. What is desire actually really, and where does it arise from?
Well, at the most superficial level, the desires that we have are suggestions from the external world. So, if you have been raised in a family perhaps where you did not have education, then you will desire education. And the suggestion which will be offered to you from your environment is, oh, you should get educated. If you didn't have a car, if your family didn't have a car, perhaps the desire is very deep to also possess a car like maybe your friend's family did. So many of these are suggestions from an external environment, and these motivate us to do something in our life to fulfill those desires. But there are very deep driving desires as well. And these are samskaras which come from maybe even previous lives. And these are the deepest and the subtlemost desires in us, which drive us unconsciously. Most of the time, we engage only with the more superficial desire. So let's consider a young person who is thinking about a career, and it is perhaps an unfulfilled desire of the parents to become doctors. And so they consciously or unconsciously suggest to this young person that he should become a doctor. So this child does not have the opportunity to self-reflect and see what he desires or what he wants to do. Perhaps he wants to become an artist or influencer maybe these days. So instead, the suggestion is put in the mind, you have to become a doctor. And that creates a great deal of pressure, and you kind of accept this desire, suppressing your own inner desire. And so the aspect of desire you can see is not as simple as it may sound, oh, I desire a car or a house, but it can get a little bit more complex when we begin to reflect on this. In our tradition, we say that the root of desire is kama. Kama, which is ordinarily also understood as sexual desire, is not merely sexual desire, but it is the root of all desires. Kama is the mother of all desires. And our tradition, as I mentioned, since it is really about this, but held in secret or only given to those who are initiated over years with commitment, with practice, and guided along through almost a reorientation of one's approach to life, we discover that that it is not so simple to fulfill our desires. I was almost hesitating to use the word manifest. It's been now used so frivolously and trivially that I would say that the idea of karma is very important in our tradition, so much so that there is a temple in Assam which is considered to be one of the most powerful places of worship, Shakti, of our Shakta tradition, and we relate also to that deity, even though we do not do rituals and do not worship external forms such as deities. We're not against it, but our practice is internal.
So when we go back maybe to the actual desires itself, you explained also before there are different types of desires. I would like to focus maybe on the external ones first. So what are, according to you, the three kinds of worldly desires?
Yes, you will see that a very deep desire, which reflects strongly in the external world, is the desire for relationships, family, to have a progeny, to have children. And this desire is called Putra Ishna. So Putra means son or child. And so, but one should remember that it's not restricted just to having children, but it is far more a relationship to other people, to connect, to share our lives with others. And so, having an intimate relationship and family, children, all these are very important to us. And so that is a very dominant desire. The second desire is called Vitta Ishna, and this is a desire for wealth and comfort. So here, talking merely about financial wealth in terms of just money, but wealth has different aspects, but comfort, luxury, material goods, material wealth, all these are is understood under the term Vitta Ishna. And then comes the third one, which is Loka Ishna, and that is our desire for recognition and fame. Well, I would not say that fame is you don't want, everybody doesn't have to want to be a celebrity, but recognition. When you do something, you want to be recognized for that. And this is also a form of self-expression, self-actualization, and recognition can come in many different ways. And success is a part of this third form of desire. And so these are the three worldly desires that motivate us.
Thanks for sharing this. So let's move on into in the more, let's say, dangerous areas of desire fulfillment. Sometimes it is said that desire fulfillment is like walking on the razor's edge. And is that so? And does fulfilling a desire end it or multiply it?
Indeed, desire fulfillment is the razor's edge. It is a dangerous path, which is also the reason why traditions like our own, the Samaya Shri Vidya tradition, have kept it secret. That is why it is sacred knowledge. And that is why the instruction, nadatavyam, 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 don't impart, don't impart, don't impart. What happens if you try to fulfill all your desires? If you fuel those desires constantly, you actually develop a sense of discontentment. You never seem to be satisfied or fulfilled. And this makes us actually, in the opposite area, a feeling of scarcity, lack, or poverty, basically. Never having enough. There are ways to satisfy or fulfill a desire, and that is not something that can be, explained just briefly in a couple of lines. It is a radical change in one's perspective, and this takes place over time. And that is, of course, the greatest challenge I face in my work with the self-realization program. We have students there, members of the SRP, as we call it, who have been with me for, some of them for 10 years. And it is an ongoing process. Sometimes it is an oversimplification to say things like, oh yeah, if you want to have your desire, just keep repeating it, and then like a mantra, But these are the misconceptions. So having a desire and fulfilling it can often multiply it. So when you get some wealth, money, for example, you want more of it, you become greedy. And again, leading to the feeling of, oh, I don't have enough. Leads to frustration, leads to anger. Not getting your desire also leads then to frustration and anger. So you see it is deeply interwoven with our mental states. And if we are not careful, can fall into the abyss. That's why it's called a razor's edge, because you have to be careful on either side. It's an abyss. The mind can become imbalanced. So walking this path, some people have managed to do this unconsciously, learning to manage the different aspects of their mind. But most people, especially those who are following now the modern trends of desire fulfillment, desire manifestation, following popular influencers, should examine some of their desires and also examine who is getting rich. Follow the money, and you will find that it is these influencers, in fact, who are getting rich. And ask yourself, have you been able to fulfill your desires in any of those oversimplified methods which are being touted. Sometimes the dangers of this are really very strong. When people start fulfilling desires without being aware of what they are doing. So in kind of deluded state, fulfilling desires, for example, the desire to travel and buy expensive clothes and buy expensive things with the idea that if they put this out like this in the world, traveling, they will attract wealth. What happens is that the money is gone and you have to spend it, and that's gone. And then, of course, I would ask such people to reflect on the fact that, do you think that the really wealthy people are traveling all over the world all the time? No, they are working. If you see the richest people in the world, they don't have much time to travel. And if they do, it's a work-related travel. Or if you see how much wealth they have, most of the time they're not even interested in luxuries. They're only interested and passionate about an idea they have, some innovation, some technology, which has made them rich, in the form of companies which they have founded. So desire fulfillment is a dangerous path if one does not understand it, and desires will multiply instead of just being fulfilled.
Right. I think that it's safe to say that human beings have been thinking about desire fulfillment for a long time, since when they're humans, there's their desires. And also looking at ancient scriptures, you will find persons called Apta. And it is said that everything an Apta desires manifests. Can you shed light on these highly evolved souls?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. Apta is a person described whose mind is coordinated. The average person mind is not well coordinated. You see, there are different aspects of the mind. And for example, we have Ahankara, which is the doer. We have Manas, that is the lower mind. We have Buddhi, that is the decisive aspect of the mind, or Chitta, which is the storehouse of memory. And these are the different aspects of the mind. And when these four aspects are not well coordinated, you have a disorganized mind. Unfortunately, the average person has not learned to self-reflect and coordinate these aspects of the mind, so they remain disorganized. An Apta is a person who has self-knowledge, knows himself, herself, and is always coordinating the mind. Such a mind is then, over a period of time, one-pointed. A one-pointed mind has absolutely no problem fulfilling desires. It is even said that when an Apta says something which is a lie, that will manifest and it become true because of the mind which is so coordinated that things manifest. I'm using the word manifest from a yogic perspective and not the way it is being used these days. More about that later, perhaps. We will explain that this wisdom comes primarily from one scripture, and this scripture is the Mandukya Upanishad. There are other scriptures which talk about this, even in Christianity, for example, even in the Bhagavad Gita. These are mentioned, for example, the divine promise that if you are focused on self-knowledge, you will fulfill all your desires. They will be fulfilled for you, And when we think about this, these scriptures talk about them. They don't elaborate much about how to go about it, because this was kept secret. This was in lineages. You had to study with a master. You had to study with somebody who had walked this path. the Mandukya Upanishad is a unique scripture which actually talks about the different aspects of the mind, the layers of consciousness. And I will provide you with a link, a kind of overview on the Mandukya Upanishad, and you can put it in the description, a link to the PDF with the overview, which would be of interest to those who really want to go to the root of the scripture. Where does this idea of desire manifestation come from? There are modern life coaches who are saying, oh, don't call me a guru. But I ask myself, why do you even think of this title for your documentary? Because that means there's a part of you which thinks you're a guru and ends the conference or a retreat with by breaking out into a dance with shlokas about the mother goddess, the goddess Shri, the goddess of wealth. And when you see that, you understand that that's where they all got it from. It comes, the most potent knowledge which is still existing about desire fulfillment is in fact from the Indian traditions and primarily the Shakta traditions, and within that itself, the Shri Vidya tradition.
Thank you so much, Radhika Ji, for laying out this map of desire fulfillment. I think we covered a lot of areas today, and closing on the Apta today was very insightful and hopefully also inspiring for you guys out there. So if you have any questions, I'm sure you have, then please don't hesitate and put them in the comments below. In the section below, you will find also the link to the Mandukya Upanishad, which Radhika Ji mentioned. Have a look at that too. And I'm really looking forward to the next sessions with you. And thank you once again for being so candid about what you have experienced. Thank you.